Hi, my name is Jason Thor Hall, also known as Pirate Software Online. I've been in the gaming industry for about 20 years. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment, then Amazon Game Studios, and now I own my own studio, Pirate Software, by the same name, which is an indie studio, and I've been here for about 8 years now.
Irony is an understatement when it comes to Pirate Software announcing his vast, rich credentials in the games industry before spewing out takes that make no goddamn sense in regards to it. This man has been in the games industry for almost as long as I've been alive, and yet he can't understand the incredibly simple and basic concepts presented in the Stop Killing Games initiative. And it's even worse when we put it together with what's going on in the industry right now, like the advent of yet another price increase for games, blatant pushes towards ending physical distribution and moving people towards subscriptions, in other words, the erosion of game ownership. An initiative like this has never been more necessary for us than it is right now, and he just doesn't get it. Or maybe he does get it, but he's just playing dumb, making things up to circumvent the arguments so as to not straight up, point blank, defend corporate interests. His candor in his videos and his credentials work very well when it comes to that, and they even had me fooled for a very long time until the first time I made a video on him last year in December where he showed utter and complete ignorance when it came to the culture war in gaming. After that, I got several comments pointing me to other examples of Thor being disingenuous or uninformed, some of which were accurate, others not so much, and that's when I realized that anything that this man says has to be taken with a huge grain of salt. And this time we're gonna have to talk about the Stop Killing Games initiative. Something that has objectively been negatively impacted by Pirate Software spreading misinformation and being extremely and unnecessarily hostile to Ross from Accursed Farms, who, if you're unaware, is the guy leading the initiative. Initially I was just going to talk about it to raise awareness even though my channel is small, but this situation has spiraled online into so much more, and now Pirate Software is on his socials playing victim and continually showing his ignorance on the matter, or dishonesty. But first I'll give you guys context in case you're not aware of what's been going on and how important it is, which I'll also touch on later in the video as we go through a laundry list of bullshit posted by Pirate Software defending his position. So let's jump right in there. So, Stop Killing Games is a very simple thing and is best explained using the example that shot the initiative into existence. Remember last year when Ubisoft just out of nowhere shut down the crew? Not just shutting it down as in, hey fellas, sorry, we gotta turn off the servers now, it's been 10 years after all, but straight up shutting the whole damn thing down, and in the cases where they could, like on their own platform, they even ripped the very game from people's libraries. If you had it on disc, of course you could still see the game. If you had Steam, you could also still see the game, but even if you tried to launch it, nothing could be done with it. It was a digital paperweight. You couldn't even launch into single player or an offline server or create your own LAN server with your friends. There was just nothing that you could do. The game was just gone because the publisher just up and decided that they were going to take away a purchase of yours away from you. Stop Killing Games wants this to not be possible. They want for there to be something that ensures that when you buy a video game, you will have access to play that game whenever you want, even if it's a minimal offline version of it in the cases of online games. And most of this is happening in Europe because of us having certain consumer protection laws, but of course if the case is won in Europe, it would ripple and benefit people in the US and other markets in the world, because after all, if a game has to be playable for people in Europe, it's obviously also going to be playable for people all over the world. Now of course for single player games this is simple, just release the game and let people play the damn thing. But even then, for single player games this initiative remains very important regardless, because of the amount of online requirements that have been on the rise, like for example the online requirement to install Assassin's Creed Shadows. I doubt anyone would miss that game if it was gone tomorrow, but ideally you don't want to see this become a common problem where you need some sort of online permission from a publisher in order to access an offline game. There's also other reasons that I will mention later in the video, so stay tuned. For online games, that's where things get a little more complicated, because of course we can expect game companies to maintain live services and game updates going forever. At some point it's just time to say goodbye, you know? But number one, that also doesn't mean that we get to throw consumer rights off of a bridge And number 2, that's not what the initiative is proposing either. And so when the time comes for companies to retire a live service game like The Crew, they shouldn't just outright strip the game from you like that. They have it on their terms of service that they can do so for any reason that they want, and in Blizzard's case it even says that they don't need a reason at all. This is just not correct. If you, as someone who bought a copy of the game, want to launch an offline or local LAN server version that still lets you ride around, if for nothing else than to just at least get nostalgic of the old days, then you should be able to do it, and it would cost the company nothing. And in other cases where this is not viable due to some technicality or whatever that makes it impossible for some games to be run in an offline mode, then there should at least be some kind of end-of-life measure for the future, as in, for new games going forward. Ideally, end-of-life measures would already include a plan to keep the game playable offline after a possible shutdown in the future. But if not that, then at least some form of communication and transparency towards the customers so that they know that they're not buying into something that's going to be dead in a few months or weeks. Pirate Software advocates against this by saying that certain games just can't do this, or they cost too much to do it. Basically, online games that run from a server side of things where players cannot alter the game's data, and in order to ensure the games continue to be playable, it would have to change to a client-side model where players could edit the data and corrupt the game. Basically being able to cheat, for example. If you ever played any old-school Counter-Strike with friends on a LAN server, you would know the kind of fuckery that can ensue if your mates running the server felt like fucking around with you via console commands. However, Pirate Software leans way too much into this point where I find it totally pointless. If the game is about to get shut down forever, inaccessible to all, who cares if the alternative is shifting it to a client-side operation? At least you can still play the damn thing with friends if you so choose to. And if it's too hard to achieve, if it's something that some games straight up cannot do structurally, then that's what the end-of-life measures, plans, and communication would be all about. They would be there from the inception of every new game, just a contingency that publishers would already have to account and plan for in order to provide minimal playability to their customers. And I know that if he saw this, he will already be coming up with some other bullshit technicality as to why it doesn't work. And once again, it would not matter, because the Stop Killing Games initiative is not advocating for publishers to keep their games running when they don't want to keep them running anymore. He also argues, however, that when it comes to indie games, it could affect them more harshly because of resources. At this point, it's no longer just transparency and willingness, it's time, money, and resources necessary to alter the structure of a game to run offline. While I would agree that this hypothetical is true, it's also, once again, completely misrepresentative of what the initiative wants and totally disproportionate. Like, it's disproportionate as hell. Nobody's going to start witch hunting indie developers. Hell, I can't even think of a single indie MMO or live service that's ever been in this position unless they were deliberately scamming people. And again, this would be there since the inception of any new games going forward. Each new game will already account for this, meaning that there's no problems having to restructure anything. And this is also where the communication bit could come in. In cases like these where an alternative mode couldn't be provided by a poor indie developer or whatever, they could instead inform their customers that the game is due to be shut down in an X amount of years or months, or under X conditions or circumstances. Communication is key, even if you don't know when a game is due for shutdown.
Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason. That sounds pretty clear to me. Our problem is those terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be taken off the table entirely. This needs regulation. Forget video games. If you look at basic commerce for hundreds of years, when you paid money, you either got to keep what you paid for, or if it was a service, you were told when your access ends. The vast majority of online-only games do neither of those. The games industry is trying to upend basic commerce. I think you have to go back to feudalism before neither of those things are true. Why even have consumer laws if you have no rights?
No one is asking developers to be Merlin and guess when their game is going to die before it's even made, or to commit to something that would be destructible to them. Obviously, not every game is going to have a set time for shutdown plan before launch, because sometimes it depends on how well a game is doing and the conditions of a potential sequel getting made. But once a game is out, that communication should be there. If not willingly, then enforced, because these people know when their games are due for a shutdown well before it happens. Nobody can convince me that somebody just decided that the crew was going to be shut down right there, that day, on that date. They knew that they were going to do this, it's just that they don't tell anyone because they want to squeeze as much money off of the game as possible via monetization and purchases before the plug is pulled. Which is why this conversation is completely useless when it comes to indie developers. Like, he's using indie developers as a shield here, yet this is just not a fucking thing. There aren't any poor little indie developers making MMOs and major live service games. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is obviously primarily directed at actual companies, especially ones like Ubisoft, who will shamelessly do that shit 1 month after telling people to get used to not owning their games. Not some poor random dude named Steve making fucking Undertale 3 The Revenge of the Flower from his goddamn bedroom. The shit that he refuses to admit is that this thing doesn't affect 99% of indie game developers, despite him using them to score pity points like, oh no, what will the poor indie developers do? There's more that goes into this stuff, but I hope that this provided a sufficient summary for you guys. At the end of the day, this is just about fairness towards us, the buyers, and nothing but basic responsibility from the side of the publishers and studios. After all, games cost good money, and it's just not fair to spend money on something and then having it yanked away without the possibility of even a refund, especially if it gets yanked away from you shortly after you buying it because of there being zero transparency of when that game is going to be shut down. What happened with the crew was disgusting, and it's not the last time that we'll be seeing it. Every big company wanted to tout how amazing live services are, how they're the future, until they aren't. And before we jump into Pirate Software's claims, I just want to reiterate two last majorly important things for you guys to keep in mind going forward, because Pirate Software just doesn't get it and keeps using it as a foundation for why he hates this initiative. So number 1, the Stop Killing Games initiative does not enforce developers, studios or publishers to maintain servers online indefinitely. This is a constant theme that Pirate Software will be banging on because of wording that is on the website, despite it being explicit that this is not the case. It's just what was mentioned just now. Communication and transparency with the buyers, and ideally just a goddamn offline alternative that allows people to play the core game even if it's not online. Especially in future games. And oh my god, if somebody tells me that this is not doable because PP Software said that it's not doable because it's too much, you can't tell me that there's a mod team out there making Skyrim multiplayer, but you can't have a developer before the game is even made, before he even starts building it from the ground up, putting in the possibility to play the damn thing in offline. Don't tell me that on the comments, because I will flip the fuck out.
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh no! He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it won't do that in big letters. That wasn't enough. We just can't stop gamers from going there, even when we spell it out. I admit, guys, this part hurts. To see the biggest voice on this issue get it wrong again and again and again, then put that same wrong information on blast to a far bigger audience than we can reach. It hurts. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what we're asking for.
And number 2, the only reason why a company would refuse to provide players with this would be because of a thing that some of them have already expressed, which is how they hate the fact that we play old video games of theirs that they can't remonetize. It bothers them massively that we can grab some older release of theirs and go play it for like 200 hours instead of buying their latest game with all the latest DLC packages and the latest fucking season pass or the battle pass or the bus pass, whatever the the fuck they've got going on. This will forever be the primary reason these companies don't want to provide players with the ability to continue playing these games. It's not because it's hard to make it happen, it's because one more player playing the old game is one less player playing the new game, and this is an issue that's going to get worse over time as they keep pushing for subscription services to be the place for us to access their games. That way, if you want to play an older game of theirs, you can't just pop in a disc you have on a shelf or in a digital library from 10 years ago, you have to subscribe to their dogshit services to do it. So, on to Pirate Software directly. This is something that he's been adamantly against from the start, and while he may come out now playing the victim like, oh, I made 2 videos disagreeing with your initiative 10 months ago, and I haven't talked about it since. Now your initiative has failed, and you're blaming me for 33 minutes of the hour-long video covering it. Your community is out in force, shitting up our streams and socials with hate messages, threats, and snide comments. He may whine and moan as much as he wants, but the truth is that he's carefully choosing words that totally misrepresent the situation. He didn't just make 2 videos on the situation, he made 2 videos and talked about it a lot more on his streams. And he didn't just disagree with his initiative, he was outright against it. He vowed to actively tell people to not support it and was needlessly hostile towards it and the guy behind it while not knowing what the hell he was talking about. I'll let Ross present it himself.
I had never heard of him prior to all this, but during the campaign, I had dozens of people contacting me, telling me how wise and reasonable he is, how he's really pro-consumer and represents developers, and I should really talk to him. Great, let's do it. So this was my first encounter of him.
Oh shit, now this is actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm gonna actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. That's awful, dude. No, eat my entire ass. The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. This shit sucks. That's a really stupid ass move. That's an incredibly stupid ass move. I think this is ass. This is complete garbage. All of this can eat shit then. I dropped the mask entirely. I have no qualms about that. They can eat my entire ass. The whole thing. That sounds stupid as shit.
Oh yeah, I can see why people like him. It's like listening to Mr. Rogers.
Additionally, this isn't Ross's community that is out in force, it's the gaming community in general who have since heard of this initiative, partially because of Pirate Software's disingenuous-ass videos on it and dramas surrounding it as other creators reacted to it, including some who are far bigger than Ross, such as Charlie from Moist Critical. There's a lot of people who have covered this, and so because of that there's a lot of people out there who support it and don't even know who Ross is, myself included, until I realized it yesterday by hearing his voice and getting PTSD flashbacks to when I was a goddamn kid watching machinima videos. He has since deleted this tweet and posted another one, a much bigger post which we'll be going through right now, but to this I say fuck that. He doesn't get to twist the goddamn narrative now, especially when he did what he did based on misinformation and potentially even purposeful malicious dishonesty. I'm so incredibly tired of people acting out online, doubling down, tripling down after that, and then crying about it when they get called out and corrected. There were about a million different ways that this could have gone down, but Pirate Software chose to be hostile, chose to mock it, and the guy behind it chose to paint the initiative as something that it is not, chose to use indie developers as a fucking pity shield with made-up bullshit that was not at all applicable, and actively chose not to speak to Ross despite him reaching out. The guy kept trying to reach out and have a conversation with him to clear up all of these doubts that he had, and the dude refused it time and time again while talking shit in his streams and making imaginary arguments against the initiative.
And he does not wish to discuss this with me, or anyone else in the initiative. Why not?
Would you consider reaching out and talking to Ross about it? No. And the reason why is because I found his entire statement over the YouTube incredibly disingenuous.
Yes, this issue which has bothered me since I was a teenager and I've spent 10 years on trying to push back against is me being disingenuous. Where is this coming from?
And what, now he's mad because people are calling him out on it, calling out his bullshit, calling out all the things that he got wrong, and accusing him of being a shill protecting corporate interests? Gee, I wonder why people would think that he's doing that. So 2 days ago, Accursed Farms, aka Ross, the dude behind the initiative, made a video catching people up on what's going on with the initiative, the things that he's got left to do, the things that have failed, and the things that are still on hold. If this is a matter that matters to you, I wholeheartedly recommend people go have a look at it and support it in whatever way you can. He's not asking for money, he literally doesn't have anything like a GoFundMe or anything like that. He just wanted people who live in the EU to sign the petition and others to hear him out and share the initiative around. The links will be in the description and top comment. So anyway, a chunk of this video also ended up being a long overdue response of sorts to Pirate Software and the shit that he kept getting wrong in his videos and streams talking about the initiative. This is something that he could have done earlier, but like I said, he tried to reach out to him instead, and then I guess he just let it go. He also got a lot of support from other people, creators big and small, and even some developers in the industry. In fact, funnily enough, some of the developers were from the studio that made The Crew. And so anyway, Ross didn't want to create a video directly addressing Pirate Software all this time because he didn't want to do the internet drama kind of thing. But now that the initiative is basically almost at an end, he's just, doing it anyway, like screw it, whatever happens, happens. If it helps to get more signatures, then great. If it doesn't, then it just doesn't. One way or another, the truth is out there. And this is why the discourse has been ignited once again and what prompted Pirate Software to start spazzing out online and write the following post. We'll go through it bit by bit, but we'll cut out some fat so that the video doesn't get overly long. The first few paragraphs are just to say that he doesn't like people calling him a liar and that those people have not watched the videos he made. Totally fucking pointless commentary here. He did lie. Either that or his reading comprehension skills are worse than those of a fucking door. It's either one or the other because he is objectively wrong. He continues, "In the first video, I go through what an initiative is, how it's not law, and how it's a starting point for this entire process. This helps people understand that this is to start the conversation for change and can adapt later. I then go through the initiative and some of its goals from the official page for it. I then talk about the repercussions of them should they be implemented. As written, all games need to be left in a functional, playable state." And again, this is where all that nonsense I already laid out in the context comes in. All of those wacky hypotheticals that he lays out in his mind that are not related to the initiative at all, or that are vaguely relatable, but not in the way that he's putting it. See, sometimes Pirate Software wasn't totally out of his mind, sometimes he was right around the point, but took it to an extreme in order to paint it as a bad thing for the industry. Like this idea that the initiative would force studios to keep games online indefinitely. The funny thing is that Pirate Software doesn't even realize that his extreme narrative, disguising itself as something to protect developers, was actually just thinly veiled "fuck the consumer rights" rhetoric. And that's beautifully visible in the next line. Next, I bring up The Crew and walk through the business around it, the sequels and the size of the player base at time of sunset. I did this because it was called out in this initiative as an example of publishers destroying a game. So one of the things that made him mad was that Ross used The Crew as an example and cited a player base of 12 million players. He used that number because that's the number that Ubisoft reported around 2018. Cuck Software didn't like it because obviously, at the time of the game's shutdown, The Crew didn't have 12 million active players. On Steam, the concurrent number was around 187 and it probably wasn't that much more on consoles. However, the fucking point remains that whether it's 12 million, 12,000, or hell, 12 people, you should not have the right to rip their game out from under them. Like, what the fuck kind of point did he think that he was making here? Active player numbers are the go-to data point to find out whether or not it should be ethical or legal for publishers to take games from us? The hell is this? Oh, what's that? L.A. Noire only has 269 concurrent players right now? Well, shit, sorry, not enough to give a fuck about the consumer. Shut it down. The fact is, if 12 million people once paid to be able to play The Crew, those same 12 million people now cannot access their purchase anymore, not even offline in single player. And that's unacceptable. Period. Next, I also harshly critique Ross Scott wording in his videos because they disparage the lawmaking process and lawmakers, which doesn't benefit players or this movement in any way. This is the fucking wildest, most disingenuous ass fake virtue signal bullshit that I've ever seen. Ross made a joke at some point about how these lawmakers like easy wins, and so the easiest way to show them that something matters is by, for example, showing them a lot of signatures. I'm paraphrasing, but it's just stuff to that effect. There's nothing shady about it whatsoever, and Pirate Software took it as an offense. You're not supposed to make laws because they're easy, you're supposed to make laws because they're right. This is right. There's nothing shady about the fucking initiative whatsoever. The worth of the initiative is not at all in question just because of a little joke, as he should well know by the amount of people against him over it. In fact, he shouldn't even need the people against him. It should be something pretty self-evident for someone who presents himself as understanding and logical and as an advocate for pro-consumer measures in the games industry.
Well, it comes from a slide I had in my promotional video, the half-joke slide. He hated this, and I think he may have a rather privileged view of politics.
You want to put together legislation because it's the right thing to do.
We did!
Not because you can convince legal representatives to do it no matter what.
It's both! These are not mutually exclusive things!
The idea that we're going to go through this because it's an easy win, but not the right win? No, dude.
Oh, God. So we misunderstood the initiative and misunderstood our intentions. And in his words, this is why he refuses to have a dialogue with the movement. So now I have to address it. This slide is a half joke, but it's also some totally cynical reasons that are often true to let people know we have a chance and this isn't utterly hopeless. Do you think I or most people in the movement give a damn why politicians might pass something good? What we care about is that they pass something good. We don't need them to be true believers, we need them to pass good law. This is as soft as it possibly gets in politics. I think most politicians would find this slide funny. It sounds like he's offended I have a low opinion of the political process.
In the second video, I talk about potential scenarios where a studio could be abused if the initiative was implemented as written. It adds new paths for abuse, and that needs to be discussed to help hone this initiative into something that would do good without doing harm. Golly gee, if only you had fucking gone and accepted to talk to Ross and others so that we could actually cover all of these potential scenarios, thereby honing the initiative instead of crossing it off entirely and trying to derail it. If only Ross had reached out to make this happen. Oh wait, he fucking did, and Pirate Cuckware denied to talk to him, despite Ross having been nothing but respectful. Honestly, way too respectful even. I swear this guy is such a rat, such a goddamn fraud. Now acting like, oh, it had flaws, you don't understand. The initiative had flaws, and so we need to make sure that everything is up to par. This initiative has potential, but it needs to be whole. Why the fuck did you try to tank it directly then? Why did you cross it out? Why did you come out straight up saying that you're going to go actively against it? Why does it bother you so much? Why do you go on stream and say, I am actually so mad? It's not even memes mad. Like, I'm really mad at this.
That video made me actually mad. Like real mad. Not like fake memes mad, like actually mad. Like, I'm actually mad.
Like, what are you talking about? What a goddamn liar, dude. And once again, guys, please take note of how extremely one-sided he is. Basically, he doesn't give a damn about the current reality in which any studio, including Greedy Soft, can just take away any game they want from you without contest or excuse. This is fine for him, but the initiative is immediately attacked and crossed off by him based off of some incredibly specific and infinitesimally small hypothetical chance in which a studio could be abused, as he says, even though there is nothing at all that suggests that there could even be any room for abuse.
The initiative is actually not that vague. Though to be fair, some people did get hung up on this part. A reasonably playable or functional state. True, that is not 100% specific. There are reasons for that. You know how in law, police can stop a suspect with reasonable suspicion? Or a jury finds someone guilty beyond all reasonable doubt? That's because the number of situations you face are so varied that the law has to inject some common sense somewhere. It's the same with games. A multi-million-dollar MMO is a different animal from a budget arena shooter. it won't work making highly specific laws. That's one half of it. The other half of it is this sentence is an olive branch to publishers. I've heard complaints this isn't specific enough. Okay, but you know what the alternative to this would be? Here, I'll show you. The game must be fully functional and contain 100% of all features as advertised. So as a publisher, which requirement would you rather meet? More importantly, this sentence shows the EU Commission that we're acting in good faith and trying to find a balance. I think some of the people asking for this to be more specific may not realize what they're asking for. I know some won't believe this, but a hell of a lot of thought went into the wording of the initiative.
So some imaginary danger is like, no, f*** the consumer. But Ubisoft taking a game away is like, who cares, guys? I mean, come on, you know? It is what it is. Just don't buy Ubisoft games, guys. We don't need any kind of regulations or anything to prevent it from happening further. It's just crazy. It's just crazy talk. What about indie developers? What about Steve? He's making Undertale 3, the Shadows of the Past, and, you know, you can't be bothered with having to implement some kind of way where the game is playable offline. That's crazy. What if he can't do it? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. This is shit. This is bad. This is just shit. This is car salesman, you know? Car salesman bullshit is what this is. Just don't buy the Ubisoft games. Buy my games. Buy my games. It's been on early access since 2017. It ain't fucking done yet. Just buy my games.
This is why nobody trusts this guy and believe that he has an angle with some company or personal project, because consumers being actively abused without rights is perfectly okay for him, so long as the studios never have to be put in a slightly inconvenient position of planning out end-of-life solutions for their upcoming games.
I then explained that very few people in the game development space can actually discuss this from the other side due to fear of losing their jobs. A studio is much safer in silent dissent than they are discussing the drawbacks of your ideals. The recent attacks on our games is obvious evidence of this.
What the fuck is this man talking about? Who is going to lose their jobs advocating against an initiative that goes against corporate interests? Is this guy serious right now? This narrative doesn't help you, dumbass. It does the opposite. The only developers afraid of losing their jobs would be the ones going, hey, yeah, stop killing games is right. Our players deserve to access their video games after they purchase them. Not the ones going, screw the consumer. Under the terms of service, our company reserves the right to shut down any game that they want for whatever reason they want. Jesus Christ, bro. Oh my god. Please, guys, drop a like and subscribe to the channel so that I can buy an ice pack for my head and my balls.
To recap, my main issue with this initiative is that it is broad in its approach to change the industry, and the exact language of the initiative, not the FAQ, requests that all games stay in a functional, playable state. This is not feasible for all games at a technical level and could potentially restrict developers from making online-only games like MMOs, MOBAs, and user-generated content games in the future. That list is not exhaustive, and it doesn't matter if you do or don't like those kinds of games. Effectively, this has the potential to restrict future developers from making kick-ass experiences because it locks a weight on their designs. Even though this is an initiative that can change in the future, this goal is core to the mission and deeply disruptive, so it needs to be called out.
Guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm going to get into this whole thing, but I wouldn't even have to, because as you can see in the first paragraph, he just disregards the FAQ, and in the FAQ, he has all the information he needs to see that his concerns are bullshit. Like, it's actually crazy that he posted this. I don't understand how he posted this. The dude literally just said, I'm going to talk shit, and I'm not going to care about what's in the FAQ, which completely disproves my shit. But whatever, let's just get into it. Number 1, functional playable state does not mean maintaining servers online. Gabe Newell himself could descend down to the earth from his ethereal divine state and try to explain this to him, he would still not get it. Number 2, providing a functional playable state does not imply staying in a functional playable state. See this disingenuous use of language again, implying that the games have some sort of state that they have to stay at? The original quote in the objective says that the initiative requires that publishers leave their video games in a functional playable state. Want to shut down your servers? Fine, leave the game playable though, not stay online or whatever the fuck he's trying to imply here. Again, literally the case with the crew, there was no need to nuke the game. They could have left it operational in offline mode where people could play it alone or set up their little LAN servers. I used to do this all the time with my friends in Counter-Strike and Minecraft. We would set up private servers that had nothing to do with the publisher. In fact, some of them didn't even own the games, they pirated them. So those of us who owned our copies had to set up everything privately, and then we'd connect to each other via this program called Hamachi, and we just played together. There's no reason why people couldn't have done the same thing with the crew. Number 3, blah 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 blah, what about these games that aren't feasible? Okay, what about the games where it is not only feasible but necessary, given how we are already in a position where we have main publishers in AAA taking away our games? Also, he already goddamn answered the questions in regards to games where it isn't feasible. It's all about future-proofing games so that this is a thing that studios have in mind right off the get-go when making a new game. The information is already there, but this guy just refuses to fucking take it into account, and then has the balls to come out and say that the initiative is vague. You know what else is vague? That brain. But that's why this needs to be airtight, no room for mistakes. The goddamn initiative never said that online-only games and user-generated content games would have to remain online though, just the same as it didn't say that the crew would have had to remain online. It just advocates for developers to not have the ability to leave people butt naked on the street without their product, literally from one day to the next, with nothing at all for consumers to do about it. Ideally, it means end-of-life plans, aka offline modes that people can use, but if that's not possible, then at least it means transparency and communication. So just off the top of my head, while scratching my ass with 0 years of experience in the games industry, let me give you an immediate workaround for this insanely small hypothetical example that this moron with 20 plus years in the industry apparently can't grasp. Let's say that Joey makes an MMO and Vinny makes a user-generated content game. And let's say that these two poor fellas are just two poor little indie developers who don't have any money or resources to rework their games into having end-of-life plans like playing the MMO offline and letting people access other people's user-generated contents. Let's say that this is just the case. Joey would just have to be transparent with his user base. If he saw that the game will have to shut down permanently in 12 months, immediately report that shit to the player base and have that information reflected on the storefronts that he sells his game at. But we can't do that because his sales are gonna be impacted. Well, of course they will. Too bad, it just is what it is. It's far less fair for me to buy Joey's game in October, get invested, start having a blast, maybe buy a few additional piss crystals or whatever to get a new sword or outfit and support the developer while I'm at it, and then suddenly having the game gone from my library a couple of months later with no way to refund it. Consumers, customers, whatever you want to call it, are not ragged puppets for you to do whatever the hell you want with. It's not us that should be in the receiving end of a tough shit in a situation like this. If you know your game is shutting down soon and you're still allowing me to buy your game and any associated DLCs or microtransactions while I have a natural expectation that the game isn't gonna just disappear since you aren't saying that it's going to happen, then you are actively scamming me. Now if you have that stamped on the storefront and I don't see it, that's a tough shit on me. Like if it's out there in the open and I missed it, that's my fault. But outside of that, no transparency whatsoever about a game getting shut down and no end-of-life plan is unacceptable. Oh, and I almost forgot about Vinny and his user-generated content game. Just make the thing offline only. Servers are off, so user-generated content from others is not available. Want to play? Make your own maps. Maybe someday some modder finds a way to make user-generated files shareable like people who download each other's Minecraft worlds, and that's about it. This really isn't that complicated either. And even if there was this specific subtype of game that could not conform to these rules, it doesn't mean that the entire goddamn initiative initiative, which applies to the vast majority of games, should get shit-canned. Not that it even would, because Ross worded the initiative pretty well. He's not making a hostile move with it. He's not witch-hunting game companies. I think he would even be more than fine if the games that already released didn't have to have the initiative applied to them, so long as future games would have it applied to them, where there's no longer any excuses to be like, oh, I can't just rework my entire game now to offer an end-of-life plan. The structure just doesn't allow for it, because at that point, you can work it into the structure while making the game from the ground up. And man, that's not even all of the good things that would come from this initiative, and the worst part about all of this is that you guys can see how screwed the industry is right now. This prick himself knows this and acknowledges this later in his post, saying that he would still be working at Blizzard if he wanted to. He just doesn't want to because he hates AAA. We can see the direction that the industry is headed. They're continuously eroding game ownership, increasing prices, and in the case of Xbox, for example, offering their subscription service as this beautiful angel coming down to earth to save gamers. Oh, little gamer, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that Outer Worlds 2 is $80. It's so expensive, isn't it? But it's necessary, you know? It's just natural progression, you know? Milk and eggs went up, and so must games, you know? But hey, don't you worry, because look here, it's the Game Pass. You can play the Outer Worlds 2 for just $18 instead. Oh, sorry, I meant $20. Oh, shit, Milk and Eggs just went up again, it's $25 now. But hey, it's still so much better than $80, isn't it? Isn't it? Ain't that better? Ain't that better? Ain't that better? Ain't that so much better? And look at how many other games are in there. Whoa, right? Amazing. Like, get the fuck out of here. We can see what they're doing from a mile away. We need shit like this initiative as soon as possible, because I believe that the next frontier of fucking up the consumer is fulfilling that promise from last year. Gamers need to get used to not owning our games. Except spread out across the board. Game licensing pushed to the next level with variable pricing, that lovely new Nintendo edition that lets them make up whatever prices they want while justifying it with technical and marketing mumbo-jumbo. Oh, what's that? You wanna play the new Skyrim for another 200 hours? That'll be another $80 to renew your license. You can hear all this and call me conspiratory or paranoid all you want, but I'm telling you, I don't like where this is going when I start connecting all of these loose dots across the industry. And for Pirate Software to sit there pretending to be an advocate for us and for the healthy state of this industry while closing his eyes to all of this and smearing an innocent initiative that is merely asking for publishers to respect game ownership and not be literally legally allowed to raw dog their customers is insane. The rest of this post is just a set of paragraphs to clear up this information about him, which is ironic because all he's been doing whenever he talks about the goddamn initiative is spreading misinformation, whether that is because he's a dumbass who can't read or because he's deliberately doing it to tank a campaign that doesn't suit him isn't for me to say. All I know is I could give a shit about all this self-masturbatory nonsense about leaving Blizzard because he hates AAA and choosing to receive minimum wage as a director of strategy for off-brand games because of him caring about games succeeding rather than profiting off of them. All of it falls completely flat when this is how he treated Stop Killing Games.
Oh shit, no, this is actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. That's awful, dude. No, eat my entire ass. The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. This shit sucks. That's a really stupid ass move. That's an incredibly stupid ass move. I think this is ass. This is complete garbage. All of this can eat shit then. I drop the mask entirely. I have no qualms about that. They can eat my entire ass. The whole thing. That sounds stupid as shit. I got a message from Ross. There were many other misunderstandings in your video. It's clear that you hate the initiative, and I doubt I would change that. That is correct. I would encourage you to at least hate it for what it accurately is. I do.
He says that so confidently. Oh yeah, you knocked it out of the park. You understood everything.
especially when he had it wrong 10 months ago, avoided Ross like the plague because he knew that he would have all of his little bullshit narratives fall apart in front of him in an actual dialogue, and to this day, he's still getting it wrong and using ridiculous hypotheticals based on shit that isn't stated in order to keep pretending that this initiative is this big bad thing. To finish out, just because I don't support this doesn't mean you should blindly follow me in that just because I said pretty words on the internet. It's pretty funny how now he paints this as a disagreement and as something that he doesn't expect others to follow blindly, but back then it was straight up his mission to make sure to tell people not to support it. You also shouldn't blindly bash me because some other creators said to. Watch the videos I put out, read the initiative, decide for yourself, apply critical thinking and don't outsource it to others. We did, and that's precisely why you came across as full of shit. It's incredible how this guy carries on pretending like everyone else around him is wrong. And the only reason you would think that he's wrong is if you heard it from another creator or outsourced your critical thinking. The more I see of this guy, the more of a fraud he comes across as. And that's not to mention the times where he goes full mask off, like actual mask off, not, playing around on the stream pretending like your mask slipped just because you dropped an F-bomb, but an actual mask off moment where he's talking about the initiative and taking the corporation side, the most extreme corporate side of the conversation, where he agrees with what happened with the crew. He agrees that live service games should die. As soon as it's not profitable for the studio, nobody should be able to play them, even if you paid $80 out the ass for it. And now I repeat again what I said earlier on in this video. Golly gee, I wonder why people think that this guy is a corporate shill.
Thor misunderstood the initiative, misunderstood our intentions, and misinformed a lot of people about both. But the irony is, I think he would have hated it even more if he did understand it. Because first, he doesn't see any of this as a problem.
Gaming isn't in need of saving. No, it's not a form of planned obsolescence. It's called the game no longer being profitable and we turn it off. No games are being destroyed here. These are live service games.
Yeah, you heard him. No games are being destroyed. Does he just say anything? Is that why he's popular? More to the point, and what I wish he included in his main video, is he supports games being destroyed.
A very strange demand from people in the gaming industry where live service games should live forever, whether in the hands of the developer or otherwise. And I can't get behind that shit. I think live service games getting sunsetted is fine. I've always thought that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I have no problems with the end of a video game.
See, I wish he started his big YouTube video with that message instead of deleting it. Instead, he presented himself as pro-preservation and not wanting the medium to die out.
It's incredibly important to me that we keep making games and that the next generation has the tools to do so that our medium doesn't die out. And it never will. And that's the whole intention of all of this.
So he doesn't want games to die out, except he's fine with that. I think there's some cognitive dissonance going on there. And he's against killing single-player games that only have a DRM check, okay? But then says people who buy single-player games with more than a DRM check are stupid, and he doesn't play those.
I don't buy games that are always online single-player games. I refuse to play those because it's stupid.
That's some tough talk coming from a fan of Diablo 4.
It's actually really freaking good, dude. The game's fantastic. Itemization is great. Systems design is great. Storyline has been fantastic. The characters are good. The voice acting is great.
So is he saying he wouldn't have played Diablo 4's single-player campaign if it didn't have forced multiplayer also? Even though he's praising it and appears to be playing solo? Or is he saying that people that just wanted to play Diablo 4 single-player are stupid? I admit I got lost on his stance there. But what's more clear to me is we're not on the same side. Here's a list of some popular games that are all at risk of being destroyed at some time in the future. The Stop Killing Games movement sees any of these being destroyed as a problem, and they're exactly the kinds of games that would start being protected if the initiative passed. Now, a lot of these do have single-player campaigns, but I believe they all require more than a simple DRM check. He says over and over that his problem with the initiative is the wording, and it's vague. But there is no wording he would like that also saves games like these. because he's on the opposite side of this. If he's totally fine with games like these being disabled forever, well, guess what? That's the position of the industry causing this entire problem in the first place.
A very strange demand from people in the gaming industry where live service games should live forever, whether in the hands of the developer or otherwise. And I can't get behind that shit. I think live service games getting sunsetted is fine. I've always thought that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
But anyway, that's about it, and I'm about to finish up the video here. Before that, I'd just like to reach out to Ross with a message in case he ever watches this video. First, I'd like to say thanks, because this was a pretty major endeavor, and even if it ends up not working out, I don't believe the fight is over either way. The further into the future we go, the more people who actually play video games, or who have kids who play them, will be getting into governmental positions where initiatives like these will immediately make sense without requiring millions of signatures. Taking time out of his schedule to dip into this world of legislature and shit cannot have been easy. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was the opposite of that. Hard, annoying, complicated, and very time consuming, while having to put his channel in the back burner. So yeah, again, a genuine thanks for that. And second, it might sound a bit pathetic coming from me because I got 17,000 subscribers, but go check out this man's content. The dude is a bona fide legend as far as I'm concerned. When I was a kid, I'd leave school, go home, and watch some Machinima videos. One of the best shows on Machinima was Freeman's Mind, which was produced by Ross, this guy. And it's actually one of the things that helped me get good at English, specifically with expressions. So yeah, unrelated and all that, but I wholeheartedly recommend you guys check it out. Looks like the perfect channel to unwind with some comedy stuff like Freeman's Mind and some thoughtful retrospectives on various games, old and new. Basically the type of channel that I aspire to someday have built for myself, even though I'll probably never be able to stay away from calling out annoying crap like this. Anyway, that's it for me on this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, send me a nice pack, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.